It's 93.3 WMMR, and joining us today we have Shaun Morgan of Seether, who has been a part of a couple of MMRBQs in 2007 and 2011. You've done an MM Archive session in our studios, and Seether's live album, One Cold Night, was recorded here in Philadelphia and hosted by MMR's Pierre Robert. So it's great to see you again, Shaun.
Yeah, you too. We've got to certainly have a long history together. So it's great to be part of, so that we can still be doing this, you know what I mean, in this weird day and age we live in now.
Definitely. Where are you hunkered down right now?
I'm at home in Nashville, and I'm very, very thankful that today of all days, it's about 95 degrees outside, and my AC has decided to die on me.
Oh.
So it's very sauna-esque in this room right now, but you know, we're surviving.
Oh my goodness. Well, speaking of tropical temperatures, I wanted to tell you a quick story. Before quarantine happened and we could roam the earth freely, I was down in Punta Cana at the Hard Rock Resort, and there was this guy there. I wish I could remember his exact job title, but he was pretty much the director of rock there. So he was in charge of all the rock memorabilia and the nightlife and the concerts that were going on there. Pretty much the coolest job in the world and one of the most beautiful places in the world. And I bring this up because all of the employees there had a name tag. So it was their name, and then underneath, their favorite band. And
Yeah.
this guy, coolest guy there with the coolest job in the world, his favorite band is Seether. So I just want you to know that this guy is down there giving you free advertising on his shirt every single day.
That's awesome. And on top of that, he also has it right. He's the guy that lives where other people vacation. So he's the one who has has it made. You know what I mean? That's great. That's cool to know. I mean, it's so weird how music can be so far reaching. Like I was in Bali many years ago, and I just happened to run into this kid on the street. It was like, oh my God, it's you. And I was like, what do you mean it's me, dude? I'm in Indonesia. I don't even, you know, but it's killer. So all those kinds of stories are always great to hear. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Nice. So we're playing the new single Dangerous on MMR, and it pulls you in. It's got this great groove throughout, a classic Seether track, but still fresh. And I was wondering if this song is indicative of what the rest of the album is going to sound like when it comes out later this summer.
I think it's got elements of it. Really, it was the most different sounding song on the album for me. And because of that, it endeared itself to me a lot because it was something that I don't know how I wrote it. Because I sat here for months and months and months writing a ton of songs, and this was the only song that had this kind of feel to it. And as I was playing it to friends and family and to the label and management, this was the song that kept rising for everybody to the top of what we should put out as a single. And I think because, you know, for me, when you put out a single, you want to set yourself apart from whatever else is on the radio. You know what I mean? You don't want to just fall in line and become sort of one of the marching band. You want to be somebody, you want to be maybe out front, or you want to be wearing pink when everyone else is wearing black. But the rest of the album is pretty heavy. I mean, I guess I was very angry last year when I was writing this stuff because
well, I mean, just looking at the track list, titles like Dead and Done, Bruised and Bloodied, Failure, Drift Away. Your music isn't exactly kumbaya, sit around a campfire and sing along music, but that's pretty dark stuff.
The thing is, I always try and retain some kind of a hopeful edge to it. And I don't know if that's necessarily always achieved, but yeah, it was kind of dark times, I think, because a lot of these lyrics were written towards the end of the year. The music was written way earlier, but I really started working on the lyrics in around about December and even into January when we were doing the guitars. But over the course of that year, I've had a lot of time to sort of sit and reflect on what I see is happening in the world around me. So unfortunately, and for me, from the perspective of not being somebody who's active on social media, and then being able to look from the outside in and see people who are and how it affects them, that kind of started seeping into my lyrics and how I wanted to present the music, I guess. And it's not the overall theme of it, but it certainly is I'd say it's a large chunk of what influenced the lyrics on this album. And I just see a lot of just angry people that really, if you disagree with them, they just want to destroy your life. It's like, and I also see, conversely, I see the constant striving of people for admiration and adulation from strangers, because then it sort of feeds their self-esteem and somehow makes them feel better about themselves. And I just don't want to live that way. You know what I mean? I don't care about what other people are doing on vacation, what they're having for breakfast, what their lunch looked like. And I don't honestly, for the most part, care about random strangers' opinions on things. Of my friends, I do, and my family, of course, I do. But really, I don't exist in that ecosystem, and I'm very thankful for that, because I had a Twitter, I think in 2010 or 11, just after it came out, when everyone was on it, and I just didn't have a thick enough skin to not take the bait. So, I
It can be very taxing on your mental health.
exactly. And I started, then there were creepy people threatening my family. It went from something that was this communication tool to something that's very dark and sinister very quickly. And it's only snowballed. So I'm glad I'm not part of it, but it's interesting to watch it from the outside and see how it influences teenagers. And for example, let's talk about one of the most deadly things right now is the online bullying of teenagers. And you're getting kids as young as 8, 9 killing themselves because of what other people are saying online and through these social media tools. So I think it's a very, very, very toxic age that we're living in. And I hate to use words that are thrown around all the time, but that's really what it comes down to. And I don't know what the future looks like, but for me, suddenly it doesn't look too bright. I'm trying to stay hopeful. But
Social
there's a whole
media
host.
has social media has really connected so much of the world, and for that I'm grateful.
Right,
It connects me to my listeners here at WMMR. But
right.
when you're so young and you start your life on social media, I mean, I
Yeah,
grew up in an age where that wasn't present yet, and I know you did too. So we
yeah,
know what it's like to feel and interact and engage without it. But when
yeah.
you take a jab at somebody on social media, what you're not getting is seeing and absorbing that person's response, like, oh,
Right,
ouch, that hurt. So you never
right.
really learn that.
Well, and
So
there's
it can be dark for sure.
and there's also that false bravado of I'm untouchable because it's not a physical thing. It's I can type something and throw it out into the ether, and then I don't care how it affects that other person, because again, like you said, there's no accountability. You don't see the response of the words that you so callously throw out at somebody. And for some people, and unfortunately a very alarmingly large percentage of teenagers, it's now becoming fatal. And that's something that needs to be addressed. And I disagree with so much of the original directives behind things like Facebook and Twitter, even and whatever the other ones are. There have been guys, like the guy that co-founded Facebook even came out and said, man, we knew we were creating something addictive. We knew it. We didn't care. I'm a billionaire. I'm going to live longer than you. So ha ha ha. And
Yeah.
that kind of sort of disposable view of humans is terrifying. And then these people are rewarded with mountains of money, and their egos are exploding. I just find it very strange. I find it very odd that we look at people like that, and for a large percentage of people, they aspire to be like that. And
Which
that's
is
because
wild, right?
right, because
Ah.
we don't have community anymore. We don't have a society that looks after each other. Let's look, and I just mentioned this earlier to somebody else, that look at how we've treated our elderly throughout the course of this pandemic, and it's been the most horrifying thing to watch. And it says a lot. It speaks volumes about the society we are currently in. And I don't think that, having had basically all the teenagers of this generation, and maybe even into the early to mid 20s, they've only ever known social media. That's what they've grown up with. And they've then adapted the way they interact with society through that medium. And then they don't really know how to do it face to face, for example.
Yeah.
So they've been taught a certain way to approach. You can say what you want and demean whoever you wish. You can yell and scream, and there are no consequences. And only recently have we seen certain things where that one girl up in I think it was New Hampshire, who texted her boyfriend to kill himself, and she was actually held accountable. And then there have been a couple of cases in Canada that I know of, but that needs to be looked at quite I think, quite, like, really, really hard, because it's becoming something where you can say anything you want, and there really is no accountability. But the difference would be, if you said it in person, you might get slapped, or there would be a real response to you would you at least run the risk of some kind of physical harm, or at least, return mental harm, which is, what's the point? The whole thing
Right.
is just the cycle of destruction, really.
I
So
think
I
you
think,
were correct to use the word toxic earlier. And I actually noticed in the single Dangerous, there is a line about your name being verified. And I was
yeah.
wondering if that was a dig at social media. And I think you just answered my question.
Yeah, it wasn't originally intended to be, but I actually didn't even have the vocal for that bridge until we were in the studio, and I was like, "Yeah, I want to try this quickly," and I wrote some lyrics and I threw them in there, and that was just a sort of stream of consciousness thing that came out, and because everything else I'd written quite far in advance because I wanted to pay more attention to lyrics on this album, and yeah, that was a real spur of the moment thing, and I think it really pushed the song to a different place, and I wasn't really too, you know, I mean, I was pretty direct, I guess. I wasn't trying to mask what I was trying to say there. And usually
No, not at all.
I tend to prefer not to be as direct as that. But yeah, I'm troubled, and I really don't see us heading to a good place. And there are, I think if you read a lot of sort of philosophers and historians, and you go back to like the fall of empires in the past, that, that's when the social structure sort of disintegrates, and the sense of community starts failing. That's when you start seeing whole societies crumble, and it looks like that's the way we're headed. So, and that's not something I ever thought I would live through. But if that's the way it goes, I guess we just have to all hunker down and protect our families and do the best we can. But I try to stay hopeful. I still have beautiful things in my life, and amazing friends and people that I hang out with when I'm allowed to.
Yeah.
Because we just went back down to lockdown here,
Oh, did you?
and I think, yeah, Nashville went back down to 2 weeks. Bars and everything closed again, and we now have to wear masks in public, and it's now you have to do it. You don't have a choice.
I think we might be
um
heading that same direction here in Philadelphia. So
yeah.
we'll see what happens. But it sounds like you put a lot of this energy into this album, and the video for Dangerous is equally as dark. So let's just keep it dark, right? It's actually a pretty cool video. It shows a
Thank you.
disturbing take on Red Riding Hood,
Hmm.
and the end is it looks like it's left open for a possible sequel. So I was wondering if we might see the storyline continue in future videos.
Yeah, we may very well, because it looks at this point to be, um when the next single comes up, we'll probably still be in a situation where it's not, because we'll start doing probably a video, or talk about a video come November-ish. And if all the information is to be believed, then once summer is over, there's going to be this huge resurgence, and we must all get back inside again, and then therefore there'll be no choice but to do another animated video. So that I definitely left it open to interpretation, and it may very well be, a sequel to that video, or we might just go, have three different converging stories, or two different converging stories, and then that then culminates in a third video, because the third video will probably come out in June or July of next year, which is when they're saying we may possibly start touring. So it's so disconcerting not to know anything about the future at all, and not to have any of the answers. But I really enjoyed working with this director, because I wrote the treatment months ago when I was kind of just listening to the mixes, and I thought, man, if this is going to be the single, I want to really get involved in the treatment of this one. And originally it was supposed to be live acted, and have actual characters, and we'd have the makeup artists make them all look really gross. But yeah, so it ended up being animated. I think it turned out well, and I'm pretty proud of it. And I wouldn't be opposed at all to, maybe that was the intention all along, or maybe you just gave me a good idea. So,
Ah, all right. I guess we'll find out. You can watch that video on WMMR.com. We're speaking with Shaun Morgan of Seether on MMR. And uh, well, hopefully we are maybe sort of slowly making our way out of this quarantine state. It might take a while. You just said that you guys are going in reverse a little bit, but I
yeah,
noticed that so many people, even though we're isolated, we're all gravitating towards similar at-home activities,
yeah.
hobbies, habits, TV shows. So I wanted to run through this short list to see how many of these quarantine activities you've done.
Okay.
Are you game?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Have you baked banana bread?
No, I have not. I haven't baked a single thing, actually.
Really?
I'm a terrible baker.
Oh,
Look, I will openly admit and fully take responsibility for being completely useless for the first few months of this quarantine, because I fell into a serious funk, and I spent a lot of time drinking. So I wasn't very healthy, and I wasted an opportunity, because I could have started like a bakery at this point with all the time I've had at home. But
you
no,
know what?
no.
I don't think you're the only one who did that though, because guilty over here. I
Thank
totally
you.
get it.
So yeah,
Have
no, no.
you
uh,
adopted a pet?
No, I have not. We got a new puppy right before in November. I say puppy.
Oh,
He's like 120 pounds now or something.
oh my goodness.
Yeah, we bought an Italian Mastiff called a Cane Corso, and he's this big black guy. He looks like a panther. So yeah, we
What's
didn't
his
feel
name?
Loki. He's a I might start posting pictures of him on Instagram to keep people interested in it. But yeah, he's beautiful, and he's big, and he's dumb, and I love him. So we didn't need to adopt anyone, because, well,
You're
any animals,
prepared.
because man, we've got our hands full right now.
Have you watched Tiger King?
Hmm. Absolutely, I jumped right on that. I was a little late to the game. I was about a week after everybody else, but I had to do the entire show from start to finish. I have so many
It's the only
questions.
way.
Yeah, I was so into it. I was going to learn the Carol Baskin dance, but I'm terrible. I'm terrible at that, so I didn't even start into that journey at all. Um, yeah, I think there was a whole bunch of terrible people that were on that screen all the time. I can't find one person that I think. Well, maybe the keeper who's missing, the tall guy with the long blonde hair. He might
Oh,
be a
Doc.
somewhat, yeah, he might be a somewhat decent guy, I think, but. Uh,
Oh, I
Geez,
could
man,
not stand him.
you couldn't. Well,
No, no. Oh, it was terrible. I mean, they were all terrible, but
yeah. I
here's
mean,
another idea for you.
yeah.
Maybe Careless Whisper was such a hit. Perhaps Seether should cover I Saw a Tiger next. I would put that straight into heavy rotation on MMR. Just saying.
You never know. I'm getting so bored that might be the next thing I do, is just do a whole bunch of really bad covers, and just send them to everybody and see who plays them.
Nice. Two more quick things. Have
Okay.
you organized and reorganized again all of your material possessions?
I have not. I have considered going through my closet a few times, and then I got bored and carried on living my life. Um, basically really, we've had our daughter's been home because she was going to daycare, so she's been home. So she's quite a full-time job, and that's been fun because she keeps us on our toes. And man, some days are great days, other days are pretty heavy, and that's when the vodka opens up a little bit earlier, closer to bedtime. Um, but yeah, I've done some things. I've organized the garage once or twice. I've actually just been reading books. I hadn't read a book in so long. I was actually kind of ashamed of myself, and I picked up, because I love the Witcher 3 video game, and then I was watching the TV show. I was like, well, I got to read the books now, and the books are killer. So I plowed through all 8 books in about a week. So now I don't know what to do with myself, because I was so into that Witcher world. I'm like, I'm
I
gonna go.
actually just watched that entire show, and that's not normally my genre, but I really liked it. There were a
Mm,
whole lot of fantasy elements, one on top of the other on top of the
yeah,
other. So
yeah,
it made my head spin a little bit, but I'm excited for season 2. So
yeah.
looking
Me
forward
too.
to that.
I'm very excited for that.
And finally, have you performed on any live streams?
I did. I did a couple. I think I did 2, where it's just me sitting in my little studio like this, and um, I'm playing into this microphone, staring at that screen, and I'm looking back at myself, and I'm like, man, it was weird. I'm an awkward person anyway. I get anxious and I get nervous quite easily, and I'll when I get worked up, I speak really fast and I forget words, and I struggle with that, but it's something I'm working on. But I did them, and I can't tell you the level of adrenaline that was in my system afterwards, because I'm playing. It's just me and an acoustic, and I haven't sang in months, so I haven't. So I would rehearse these songs before I did it, so I didn't look like a total clown. And then yeah, and then you go, and it's like your heart's pounding because it's now 3 o'clock. You got to go. So it ticks over. I start, and I don't know what to say because I'm just talking to a screen. I don't know.
You
I don't
don't
have.
feel the reaction. You don't hear the reaction of people
Yeah,
watching.
and I don't have the confidence that I watch a lot of guys that talk to the camera, and I'm like, man, that looks so easy. And then when it's your turn, it's not easy at all. It was brutal. So I did it a couple times, and like I said, afterwards I had such adrenaline rushing through me that it would take hours for it to come down. and I would sit here just like shaking afterwards because it terrified me. Quite honestly, it's probably one of the most terrifying things I've done, only because I feel so vulnerable, and I feel so alone because it's just me, and there's nobody else around. There's no, like you said, there's no response. There's no return information from the people you're playing for. I mean, I guess I could sit and read comments, but I'm also I don't want to, because
Right.
it's just not. I mean, that's one way to ruin my day. So yeah, I did it, and I'm glad I did it. I did, I did, I think, 2 30-minute streams or whatever, and it was kind of towards the middle of everybody else jumping on that bandwagon, and I put it off because I wasn't, I was, again, terrified of it, and I wanted to make sure it was decent, and so did those a couple times. I think in the future what we'll do is we'll probably we're going to look to to stream as the whole band and play, in the same room, kind of like that abomination that what's that guy with all the tattoos on his face
Oh, Post Malone?
when he did that Nirvana one? I was like,
Abomination.
I
Let
was
me tell you.
cringing. I was cringing.
Really? Because I saw it get a lot of positive feedback. So tell me, give me your thoughts on it.
I'm just, I was, it's no secret that that's the band that got me to pick up a guitar. I'm an absolute purist. I learned how to play those guitars when I was a 12 or 13-year-old kid. And even one wrong way to play a chord, I was really upset by, because I'm just a purist. It's like, there's some bands that if you're going to cover them, I feel like you have to do it as close to the thing as possible. But in general, I don't mind the guy. I actually quite enjoy his music. It's just, for me, I was like, that was
So it's just the concept of doing a full set of Nirvana, because you are a huge Nirvana fan. So I can see you being a little hesitant walking into that.
Yeah, but what was cool about that setup was it could come across as one stream uninterrupted, and they would just switch between cameras, and I thought that was great. So that was the positive thing that I got out of that, and that's something we would look to do in the future, but maybe with a higher production value. And that's basically what was in store for us for this year. I mean, not much else we can do. You know what I mean?
It's true.
It's just sort of adapt or die.
Well, looking forward to that. Looking forward to the album coming out on August 28th. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your clearly very busy quarantine schedule down in Nashville for joining us on MMR today.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.